Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Project Management Paradise podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Murphy, and today I'm joined by Kris Sprague to discuss the topic of how to improve forecasting by 98% in life sciences. Kris is the head of program and project planning at Regeneron Pharmaceuticals. He is an executive level professional with extensive experience building and leading project management organizations and PMOs that assist business leaders in achieving their strategy. In 2021, he was recognized by the PMO Global Alliance as one of the top 4 PMO leaders in America and one of the world's top 16. He's a highly talented leader with an advanced master's degree in project management and over a dozen professional certifications from organizations such as the Project Management Institute, the PMO GA, and ProSci. Kris, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thanks so much for asking me to be a guest on the podcast, Aaron. Really appreciate it.
That's no problem at all. To get things started, can you tell us about yourself and your background?
Yeah, certainly. Well, I currently work at Regeneron. We're a pharmaceutical company or biotechnology company. And my focus there is around program and project planning and really helping them provide more accurate forecasts regarding the clinical trials that we conduct. I have probably about 300 projects and maybe about 50 programs within the portfolio. And so there's a lot of moving parts and really trying to ensure that the forecasts are as accurate as possible.
That's fantastic. And how did you get started in project management? Was this something that you knew you always wanted to do, or was it through a career path that you just diverged on and it just led to this destination?
Yeah, so after receiving my bachelor's degree in computer and information sciences, I embarked on a software engineering career. And the projects that I worked on at that time, I guess you would characterize them as being chaotic, as they always ran into problems. And this really, I would say, sparked my interest in pursuing a career in project management. I felt I could do a better job at managing the projects than the people that were managing them. So at that time, project management really wasn't a profession. And so I kind of wondered to myself, how does one become a professional project manager? And one of my first thoughts that came to mind was to continue my education. So I developed software during the day on a full-time basis and attended graduate school at night. And within a few years, I obtained 2 graduate degrees. The first one in information management and expert systems, and the second was a master's in business administration. And after graduating, my project management career was officially launched when I accepted a position at a company that provided project management services to the federal government. And I had a few different government agencies as my clients, and I managed projects for them. I would say that I got really good at delivering projects and then looked for my next challenge, which was managing programs. And I did that for a few years and then went on to build and lead several project management organizations and PMOs in various industries. In addition, I advised clients along the way on how to build a PMO. And I also continued my education and obtained an advanced master's degree in project management. And I served as the president of one of the Project Management Institute chapters. I think most of the listeners of this podcast have probably heard about accidental project managers. And I guess I was the intentional professional project manager.
That's fantastic. And that's a great breakdown of the career, how you managed to actually work and do your academic at the same time. And that's something that a lot of people struggle with. But I suppose you had that goal in mind and you kept working towards it, which is fantastic.
I did. It definitely time management skills came into play, trying to balance out, work, school, family, all that time. And just made it happen and really, like you said, a goal of getting through it in as quickly as possible within a few years time frame.
Excellent. And you touched on a PMO there. And can you just explain to the audience what is a PMO and what its function in an organization is?
Yes, certainly. A PMO can refer to a portfolio, a program, or a project management office. A PMO really represents a management structure that standardizes the governance processes and facilitates the sharing of resources, methodologies, tools, and techniques. A PMO may be established for a department, a division, a business unit, or the enterprise. Organizations establish PMOs for a variety of reasons, but the major benefit that they want to have is typically improvement in their project management in regards to better schedules, containing cost, improved quality, reducing risk. Those are the primary factors. And PMOs have many potential roles in aligning work with strategic goals, engaging in collaborating with stakeholders, helping to develop talent within the organization, and realizing value from the investments in projects. PMOs really create value in a number of ways, delivering projects under budget, increasing customer satisfaction, improving productivity, decreasing the number of failed projects. So these are some of the benefits that a PMO would bring, to an organization.
That's fantastic. And I know that you've run a very successful planning and scheduling center of excellence at Regeneron, achieving a 98% improvement in forecasting, which is fantastic. Would you be able to explain what exactly the center of excellence is and what has been your biggest challenge in building it and what lessons have you learned?
Yes, certainly, Aaron. So let me begin, I guess, with providing really a standard or textbook definition for a center of excellence. And then we can talk about the specifics with this COE for short. So when you think of the center of excellence, the definition is really a place where the highest standards are maintained. Gartner, which is a global research and advisory firm, actually describes a center of excellence as concentrating existing expertise and resources in a discipline or capability to attain and sustain world-class performance and value. And the Project Management Institute actually defines the COE as supports the execution of project work by equipping the organization with methodologies, standards, and tools to enable project managers to better deliver projects. So regardless of what definition you want to align to, a COE is really meant to address any gaps or inconsistencies with the project management processes that are being applied within the organization. And so when I started this effort, the focus or goal really was to improve forecasting accuracy across the global portfolio. The scheduling tool that we were using was Microsoft Project Online and Microsoft Project Professional. And the previous state was that the schedules did not provide accurate forecasts. And the root cause of this problem was that they did not contain the necessary logic to model the work to be performed and the associated time it took to perform the work. So what my team did was we re-engineered the schedules and implemented a technique known as forecast scheduling. And this approach requires the schedule by itself to produce accurate forecast on a continuous basis. In other words, it's a dynamic model. The logic in the schedules work very similar to the way a global positioning system would work in your automobile, indicating that you're going to arrive at your destination in X amount of time. The same is true with the way that we've developed the schedules. In regards to challenges, yes, we most definitely faced some challenges along the way. And if I had to think about it, there's probably three challenges. The first one was getting buy-in from executives, and I would term them skeptical stakeholders. To function well, centers of excellence need buy-in from the top to get them planned and implemented. Management must understand how the business will benefit, and they have to commit to assigning resources to the team in order to make it happen. In my experience, it can take many conversations and many hours to get buy-in and support from executives and skeptical stakeholders. So that was really the first challenge. The second challenge I encountered was acquiring resources with advanced skills and knowledge. When I first started, I determined that the internal resources didn't have the advanced proficiency with using the chosen scheduling tools. So what I had to do was build my team with external resources. And I encountered several problems along the way. that I'm going to share with you. The first problem was recruiting Microsoft project experts with experience in the biotechnology pharmaceutical industry. Many of the companies in this industry use commercial off-the-shelf software products such as Planisware, PlanView, or Clarity as their scheduling tool. So it was kind of like searching for a unicorn to locate Microsoft project experts who also had a background in drug development. The second problem was taking a look at Microsoft project experts from other industries that do a lot of scheduling. And what I found there is that companies in industries such as construction, engineering, oil and gas, and professional services predominantly use Primavera. So hiring a resource that is an expert in Primavera doesn't help you when you need an expert in Microsoft Project. And the third problem was really all about location. The company that I work for is headquartered in Tarrytown, New York. And for those of you who don't know where Tarrytown is located, it is approximately 30 miles or 48 kilometers north of New York City and is adjacent to the Hudson River. The location is both an advantage and is a disadvantage when trying to recruit resources. Being this close to New York City provides people with access to everything the city offers. However, living in Westchester County is one of the most expensive areas to live in the United States. In addition, snow is usually on the ground 6 months out of the year between November and March. So the location may be a deterrent for people who prefer living and working somewhere that has warm weather on a year-round basis. I would like to say that this is no longer a problem as my team is now 100% virtual. And I did also encounter a third challenge, Aaron, and that is demonstrating value. The value that is generated by a PMO or a COE is elusive at best. It's often hidden in improvements and efficiencies that are intangible and hard to measure. Value, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. And the PMO or Center of Excellence may think it is providing great utility, but do your stakeholders think so? The only way to find out is to ask them the question, are we providing value to you? So to summarize, those were really the three challenges that I encountered building the Center of Excellence.
That's fantastic. And it just shows like you have to have the right people with the right skills to fit the job that you're looking for. It's no good having someone, as you said, who had a different skill and a different program coming on the team because they'd get lost and they wouldn't be able to help improve the forecasting overall. And
Exactly.
exactly. And that has, I'd say, has been the biggest lesson you've learned from all of this as well, is making sure you have the correct resources and skills for your team members. And as you mentioned about your team members, why does a modern PM have to have more rounded soft skills than a traditional PM? And could you explain what some of these soft skills may be?
Yes, certainly. So one of the biggest soft skills that I think is needed is the area of influencing. And I think from a project management perspective, really the trend that we're seeing is that organizations are dealing with remote work, right? And that's going to become permanent for some percentage of employees. In other cases, you're going to have people or employees of an organization working in a hybrid model, and others are going to be in the office 100% of the time, 5 days a week. So there's also a challenge for the project managers because they have to deal with resources that may be working remotely, other resources are working hybrid, other resources are working on site. So anyway, what I basically see in that area is that soft skills would be all the looking at it from a standpoint of how do you influence the stakeholders. A lot of the projects that are going to be done in the future are going to involve resources that are outside the team, meaning customers or stakeholders. And as a result, these project managers are going to need to have very good interpersonal and communication skills, not only the technical skills that are needed to drive the actual project. So I think mastering the triple constraint, scope, time, and cost, is kind of the minimum standard, but it's really taking on advanced learning and being able to apply these soft skills in addition to the technical skills in order to really be a well-rounded project manager.
Absolutely. And as you said yourself, it's been able to translate essentially the technical information from one team to maybe someone who doesn't have that understanding of the technical logic. So communication is key for projects like that. And can you explain why change management is so important now within organizations?
Yes, certainly. So change management really focuses on the people side of how they are affected by the delivery of the product or the service that is generated from the project, right? Versus project management that focuses more on the processes and the activities that are needed to complete a project. And because projects can have a significant and lasting impact on the business and the stakeholders, projects and change management really work hand in hand to ensure long term success for the organization. And what I see happening really as a trend in the near future is a blending of these two disciplines, change management and project management, to really help the project team and the project manager deliver a project.
Fantastic. And you touched on trends there. And, in the industries yourself, every few years, you'll see some come and go. But to you, what are the five big trends that you think is going to impact the PM industry within the next 5 years?
Yeah, certainly the one that I mentioned, the emerging trend is remote working becomes more permanent for some percentage of employees, and organizations and project managers are going to have to figure that out. The second trend is really in the area of the demand for project managers increasing. Um, there was a recent Project Management Institute report that indicated that the global economy needs 25 million new project professionals by the year 2030. And to close this gap, that means that 2.3 million people will need to fill project management roles just to keep up with the demand. So this is definitely a trend that is going to need to be, addressed. Another area is the use of artificial intelligence and automation and how that will impact projects. And I think this is probably going to affect almost every industry. That's pretty much a given. We're actually see it impacting the area of project management is helping to automate many of the administrative focused activities that currently fall to project managers. For example, allocating resources to projects, balancing projects, doing schedule and budget updates, maybe on a weekly or periodic basis, and really taking care of a lot of the administrative activities that the project managers currently do that tend to eat up a lot of their hours or cycles each and every week. And when you think about this, it's really a low value added activity. Gartner actually came out with a figure, and they indicated that approximately 80% of project management tasks might happen autonomously by the year 2030. While some project managers may be concerned about the impacts that automation will have on the profession, it also offers great potential. By automating these low value tasks, project managers are going to be able to focus their efforts and energy on completing tasks that provide much greater benefit to the organization. And as a result, they'll be able to more successfully achieve their goals. Another trend that I see happening is around hybrid methodologies. And I would say that many of us grew up implementing project management with the idea that one size fits all, meaning that all projects will need to follow the same methodology, the same project lifecycle, and use the same templates. Prior to the year 2000, the focus was really on what has been termed traditional waterfall methods. And probably about the year 2010, it moved to agile, and all projects in the organization needed to follow the agile approach. Today, that we kind of know that this is wrong, and you just can't have one methodology to address all the projects and changes in your organization. So a trend that I see happening in the future is that we'll see the evolution of implementing projects into a set of tools, which will include agile practices, traditional project management practices, some design thinking, innovation, Scrum, Kanban, Lean, and change management. And depending on the type of project managers should be able to apply one tool or different techniques simultaneously. Um, Another trend I see happening is the development of advanced project management tools and solutions. These tools and solutions have always been a game changer, or a factor in terms of improving project productivity. And really, where I see some of the advanced tools moving towards is, for example, in the area of project planning, being able to use data from previous projects that have been delivered to help us plan better for those future projects that we're going to be undertaking. In the area of scheduling and time tracking, being able to keep track of time spent on tasks and managing scheduled events, meetings, milestones, deadlines, etc. In the area of communication and collaboration, letting you share critical information with team members, clients, other stakeholders, depending on security access rights. In the area of budgets and deadlines, having these tools help you deliver projects within the allocated budget. And finally, in the area of progress tracking, keeping track of the projects to determine if they're going to be delivered on time or behind schedule, or maybe even ahead of schedule. And then determining if resources on the project need to be adjusted or not. So this is kind of where I see some of the software going in the near future in the project management space.
That's fantastic. And there are really big trends that are going to be coming, and hopefully they improve on how a project manager and organizations work, which would be great. And you've mentioned about how hybrid working and virtual offices seems to be a big thing at the moment, especially within your organization. You were able to implement it. From your experience, can you provide some tips for effectively leading a team in a virtual office workspace?
Yeah, certainly, Aaron. And to begin, I think leading a virtual team is more complex than leading a traditional team because you lack that face to face contact. You also have members of your team that are geographically dispersed. And oftentimes, the way that you communicate with your team members is asynchronous. In addition, motivating team members and managing team dynamics, from what I've found, are much more difficult in a virtual team environment. There's a challenges that I've faced really over the last several years, as we moved into this global pandemic. The first one is really around communication. And what I've found is that some of the members of the virtual team may not have effective communication skills. And as a result, in my role as a virtual team leader, I have to allocate time to coach these individuals, right? So that's really one particular challenge. And the recommendation I have for maybe other virtual team leaders that are listening to this podcast is to establish some communication guidelines. These guidelines should set expectations as to when team members should be online, when you should utilize instant messaging and chat, such as Microsoft Teams or Slack. The guidelines should also explain how to communicate. For example, when you want a prompt answer, you should use synchronous communication. And when response time is not as critical, you can use asynchronous communication. You should also encourage team members to respond to emails within 24 hours. And some other things that the guidelines may want to address is creating out of office messages to let team members and stakeholders know your availability, as well as to clarify when a meeting is and is not required. A second challenge that I've seen is really around language barriers. And this is just not a matter of different languages, but other factors such as proficiency and interpretation. If English is chosen as the language of choice to be used in teleconference, Team members who are non-native speakers may become overwhelmed just trying to keep up with the conversation, or they may feel anxious when it's their turn to speak. So, some of the recommendations I have regarding this challenge is for the team members to use simple language and, when possible, to use a lot of visuals to help people grasp the concept that you're trying to communicate. In addition, you also may want to explore maybe providing language training to some of these team members who don't speak the language as fluently as others, or potentially hire a translator. A third challenge that I see around um, leading a virtual team is in the area of cultural differences. Working on a virtual team with international team members means that some of your colleagues are from different countries. They have distinct customs, celebrate different holidays, and may have different days off than other team members. So, when leading a virtual team, the most important thing to remember is really to provide an inclusive experience for everyone. And I encourage virtual team leaders to spend time with their team, learning about their cultural norms and customs, and use this information as you share your ways of working. So those are some of the challenges that I've seen, as well as some of the recommendations.
That's fantastic. And just drawing back on your background, you have several industry accreditations as well as university qualifications. Can you explain why professional certifications are so important, especially for someone, who might be cynical about them?
Yeah, certainly. So to begin, I have four certifications from the Project Management Institute. So they are portfolio management professional, program management professional, project management professional, and risk management professional. And really, as a lifelong learner, I've obtained professional certifications from other organizations. For example, the PMO certified practitioner through the PMO Global Alliance, the change practitioner through ProSci, and the process professional through the BP Group. In addition, I'm certified in forecast scheduling for time, workload, and cost modeling. I'm a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt and a Distinguished Toastmaster. The latter is really the highest award that Toastmasters International bestows, as it recognizes superior level of achievement in both communication and leadership. And I feel there are a lot of benefits to obtaining a professional certification. A few that come to mind include learning new skills, establishing credibility, basically being able to demonstrate that you have specific skills that employers seek. And in addition, obtaining a professional certification may enhance your career opportunities. According to the most recent project management salary survey, they've also indicated that the median salary for individuals that have a project management certification in the United States is 25% higher than those that are a project manager but don't have the PMP certification. So I would say that also having a professional certification helps out from a financial standpoint.
That's fantastic. And it really just show that the more certificates and the more training and education that you have, it really does open more doorways for promotions and higher pay essentially as well. And
Exactly.
yeah, that's fantastic. And are there some industry sectors that are better suited for running a PMO? For example, your own industry of the biotech and pharma versus, say, financial services or government?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've done is kind of on a volunteer basis, Aaron, over the last 3 or 4 years, has been to represent the United States as a judge to select the best PMO in the world. And based on this experience, I can definitely state that a world-class PMO can come from any industry as well as any location in the world. Um, each year, the PMO Global Alliance has a competition to select the best PMO. And typically, what happens is organizations submit their application in the February to April timeframe. The evaluation stage occurs between May and September. This is where I get involved as a judge. And then the celebration stage takes place in November at the annual award ceremony. And typically, from my perspective, if you're familiar with the NCAA basketball tournament that takes place each March, known as March Madness. This is sort of how the competition runs with the PMOs, where if more than one country has a nomination, they compete with each other, and the judges determine who is the winner, and the winner keeps advancing until the country representative is determined. After that has been decided, what then happens next in the competition is you take the top PMO in one country and evaluate it against the top PMO in another country. And the PMOs keep advancing until they become the region PMO of the year, which the way the PMO Global Alliance breaks it down is they have a region for Africa, one for Asia Pacific, one for Europe, and one for the Americas. And then once those PMOs have been determined, the World PMO of the Year is selected from the top PMOs in each region. So I guess in response to your question, my experience tells me it doesn't matter what industry or what type of organization creates a PMO. Basically, you can have a PMO come from a very small country, a very small industry, and still be at that world-class level.
That's fantastic, and that's very exciting to hear. It seems like a big competition, and I'd say for people to actually get the award of being the best PMO in the world is probably on another level. Like
it definitely is, and I had the opportunity last year, not only being able to evaluate the PMOs from an organizational perspective, but I was actually nominated to run as the top PMO leader. So they have different categories, whether it be on an individual or organizational basis. They also have, I think, other categories for the top PMO influencer of the year, the top volunteer of the year. So there are several categories that they give awards to during their annual ceremony each November.
That's amazing. And Kris, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. You have really been a fountain of knowledge, and I've really enjoyed talking with you.
Great. My pleasure, Aaron. Thank you.
Fantastic. And we'd love to have you on the podcast again in the future. And if anyone would like to reach out, where could they find you online?
Yeah, certainly. Probably the best way to contact me is right on LinkedIn, and it's Kris, Kris. The last name Sprague, Sprague, and would be glad to connect and answer any questions that you may have related to the topics I covered in this podcast.
That's fantastic, Kris. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to speaking with you again in the future.
Sounds great. Thank you, Aaron. Have a good day.